in 21 and Laquan Treadwell in 22.
So Boston Scott's running about 5 rounds ahead of David Boston. That's good.
David Boston.
Man, I don't have the sound effects ready yet.
Oh.
You guys ready? You guys ready to rock or what?
Sorry, that was a blast from the past.
David Boston. I mean, there's a guy. He was the original. Who was the Landry guy who played for Baltimore? Went to the Colts. Loved the weights more than me. You guys don't remember
Landry?
LaRon Landry.
LaRon Landry. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
He had that picture of him like posing. He was like
With the amino acid bucket.
Yeah, he had like
the
the
amino
thing on
acid,
his bicep. I'm like,
yeah.
Steroids are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Big time.
I'm a big fan. But people act like that you can just find them anywhere.
Well, you don't live on Long
Depends
Island.
on who you know.
It's all about the HGH, man. Once you're over 50.
You know, it's like the whole TRT. I'm just trying to be cheap until the insurance will pay for it. Then I'm in. If not, I may be in, but I'm waiting.
Some good insurance.
You know, they want to keep costs low, so why would they give you something that makes you feel good?
Right.
You have to wait till you feel bad.
All right, boys. Let's kick this thing off.
Goat District, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the and I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
What is up, Fantasyland? We are back in the district, and the NFL has a whole lot of goodness for us to dive into tonight. Like, it's kind of like a war zone out there, right, guys? And what better way to dive deep into the movement, the goodness that the NFL is giving us with free agency, rookie combines, all the goodness. First, we have an OG GOAT. For those who don't know, this man is a pillar. He's a brick in the house that is the GOAT District. You know him from the Dynasty War Zone. He's Mr. Memphis. He's Randy. Welcome back to your GOAT District, my friend.
It's been a while, man. How have things been?
Good, man. Good. We're always happy to have you in the district. For those who don't know, Randy was a big part of getting us off the grounds. He was one of the OGs. Nate, Randy, and I were doing these things from garages, bathrooms, you name it. Randy helped me get the whole setup together, the logistics, and we'll always be grateful. And we're grateful for your time tonight. And you've brought the legend, the beard, Jerry Sinclair. Welcome back, brother, to the district.
Listen. It has been far too long. And Randy has to be so happy that he gets to do a podcast with other professionals and not the degenerate slapdick that is Jerry Sinclair. It is good to be back. Dan, fresh off his retirement and vacation. Theo, JD, thank you for having me back, guys. Love to do it.
I do see why Theo doesn't wear a hat, though.
Yeah, right? He's got it going.
For the record, I wouldn't either.
Appreciate that.
And
Appreciate
guys,
that.
Theo, this is how long it's been. Hey, Dan, that Jerry's been on. He thinks we're professionals here. I don't know.
Yeah, I was looking around trying to spot this professional in the room. Couldn't find it.
So, guys, we appreciate you coming on. Just remind the peeps, Randy at DWZ Memphis and Jerry at Jerry Sin, SIN, DWZ Jerry, why don't you let the people know, where they can find all your goodness if they're not already following. And if you're not, guys, you're missing a whole lot of goodness. And maybe give them a little update on what's the newest out there in the Dynasty Warzone.
Listen, I mean, Randy is the man, the myth, the legend. He is the CEO of the Warzone. We got shows for everything. Every consumer of daily, and rookies are obviously going to be the new hotness. They are the sexy thing that comes out, especially in the off season. We got our man Dallas hitting that up. We got multiple shows everywhere. We got a Patreon that is just an absolutely bananas chat. Wonderful stuff. We're working on our 13th Patreon startup right now. Randy's got an absolutely putrid team that he still tries to promote, but it's what else is there to say, man? It is we just passed the combine, which is the first off-season holiday of the Dynasty season. Now we're just counting down to the draft, baby.
I love it. The Warzone is such a good podcast, and it's been my Sunday night since Sunday. I don't have a Sunday night show right now. I've been watching the Sunday night Warzone and just loving what you guys are putting out with the live YouTube. It's been great stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah, if you're normally a podcast listener to the Warzone, we dropped the show on Wednesday, but due to my ever hectic schedule, Jerry has been very gracious, and we've been recording on Sunday nights. So if you want to get the show early because you don't have a Sunday show, hit the YouTube channel. It's Dynasty Warzone. Not only do you get to see Jerry and I, you get Dallas Hyder hosting the rookie rundown. This is what's cool about our Patreon. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. But 3 of our original patrons, Jesse, Mike, and Chad, they wanted to do more in the Dynasty and the podcast space in general. So they started hosting a podcast for their fellow patrons. And after about half a season of doing that, they've taken over and they're doing kind of a cool play on words. It's called Dynasty War Games. And they do a game-themed show, and they've done rookie stuff. They've done like a rookie match game. Like they name a rookie and then they name a team that would be best suited for that rookie. I hang out with this Jerry Sinclair fella on Wednesdays. And then our boy Kyle August from the Fantasy Football Smackdown has been doing some off-season stuff. So just keep him busy, and you can find everything. If you search every platform at Dynasty Warzone, you'll find us.
All right, guys, go check them out. Let's get into the goodness, guys. Like we said, we kind of tried to split this thing up into 3s, talking rookies first, post-combine. Jerry said it, first national holiday of the Dynasty world with the combine just passing. Randy or Jerry, I'll go to you first. I know you're a big college guy, way more than I am. What's changed for you? This is totally off the show sheet, by the way. So just a warning, I'm going right off the bat, man. We're going right off the rails. How did your impression change of this class post combine?
It's weird because I think everybody loved that everyone was running 4.4s. But to me, I just think it muddied up the situation even more. I think the 2 big running backs, I think they sort of separated themselves. And then the rest of it is, I think, me and Randy talked about it on our show, is I think it's very draft spot dependent. It's what each situation is going to look like. In truth, I would love to tell you that it cleared things up and we have a solid static position for each person, but I don't think it's that. I think it is actually more terrible, more struggling, and it's just going to be more fun to try and figure this thing out. It's not going to be, pulling one string and having all the answers. Everything is intertwined, and it's going to be tough.
Randy, anything changed for you post-combine?
No, Jerry said it well. For me, the QB1, the top 2 running backs, and the top wide receiver did not move, but it locked in their positions with me. And really, everything beyond those 4 guys is 110% landing spot dependent. So I don't think there's a guy so talented that he could overcome a bad landing spot, but there's not a guy who can't leverage a good landing spot to his advantage. And I've always considered the combine a data point. You have their college tape data point. You have their combine metrics, their athletic measurables data point. And then you're going to have their landing spot and draft capital, actual NFL data point. I think you put that in a blender, mix it up, and then you can really solidify those rankings come, that first, second week of May.
Dan, we get the privilege of data points every week on our show. Just our guests, amazing data points for us with these rookies. I know Theo. I want to go to Theo last because he's been trading these draft picks like they're going out of style. So I'm curious to see how this combine has affected his trading at all. But Dan, has it shifted your views on this class at all coming out of the combine?
No, the combine, I try not to let it influence me too much, just because the athleticism doesn't really matter as much as what the NFL teams tell us what they think about that athleticism when they draft players. Like I said last week, I do tend to be a little bit more leery of wide receivers that shoot up the draft board from where we thought they were going to be before, just because of athleticism. And I'm actually a little bit more impressed by players who aren't dropped by NFL teams because they come out at the combine and they're not as athletic as what we might have hoped. I think the fantasy industry puts a lot of they put a lot into the combine. They think it's very, very important in a lot of ways. And it seems to, even though a lot of people say, I don't really want to let it affect me, a lot of people do let it affect them. And so the challenge is always to actually be able to toe that line and not let it affect you. So I do my best to try to not, I'm not making any rookie rankings or anything right now. About as close as I'm coming to that is when I'm doing best balls. I'm looking for those rookies that nobody else is looking at. They're in like the, round 14 plus, something like that. And I'm looking for those guys who have become intriguing to me. And if they're still available there, those are the guys that I'm picking up. And that's a good way to get exposure to rookies in a non-dynasty way when it comes around to dynasty. Again, just like Randy said, the first couple weeks of May, that's when you put it all together.
Combine is Theo. It's just another reason, just another opportunity for Ridley to bet on football. No,
absolutely. There's much more prop bets for Calvin Ridley. But
talk to us about your trades, buddy. Talk to us about your trades. You've been moving draft picks like they're going out of style, man. How's the combine changed that?
Well, I've had some trades where I've been acquiring picks, and then some other leagues where I've moved picks. I was able to pick up a DK Metcalf share today, based on the news. I'm sure we're going to talk about.
That was a big trade. Why don't you give us the deets on that?
I sent Jerry Jeudy, I sent Gabe Davis the 111 and the 312 to get DK Metcalf and a late pick. This was a 20-man roster FFPC league, where it's not like a 30-man roster, and it's a league where I still have the 5th and 6th pick in the first round and 2 second rounders. So I thought I could, overcome, maybe any of the depth I lost. And it was a chance for me to get a wide receiver who I love in DK Metcalf. But generally, I've been trying to accumulate picks, and I think you can do more with them. I will say, Jerry brought up the 40 times. I think the 40 times may have helped the value of the picks. I think that some of these wide receivers, just in terms of, we don't want to adjust our stances on guys based on how fast they run a 40. But I do think it gets people a little more excited when a guy like a Chris Olave's, running a 4.39. It's making, the general dynasty community a little more excited. But my general takeaway is that the 101 became more valuable. I think Breece Hall really solidified himself as the 101 for me. And I think that it's pretty much the consensus now in Dynasty. The guy is what we're looking for in a back. He's a two-way player. And, based on his measurables, I think that people are starting to get really excited about Breece Hall. And I think the fact that Treylon Burks didn't set the world on fire with his measurables kind of took him out of the argument for maybe cracking into that 101, 102. So I think it's great if you have the 101. I think it's worth a little more. That was kind of my general takeaway.
What a true professional. Theo walked us right into the first one on the show sheet. I was going to go to Randy, but I'll go to Jerry first. Now that
Jerry's the expert on this player, by the way.
So is Theo's thing, the 101 still clear is clear, has been cleared, I guess, or has made it clear with the combine. Is Kenneth Walker the clear 102 now for you, Jerry?
Yeah. So if you are not watching on YouTube and you are, You're a podcast consumer. I am wearing a Michigan State shirt. I do have a diploma from Michigan State University, and I am so unbelievably biased for Kenneth Walker. So I am just going. Did I just get kicked? Okay. That freaked me out. Randy's never done that to me. I wasn't prepared for it. I love Kenneth Walker. And Breece Hall is an absolute star. So, yes, I do think he is the 101, and I do think that Kenneth Walker is the 202. Those were the two running backs that I was talking about that I think separated themselves and sort of secured their spots. I can't really foresee a situation unless, they land in unbelievably terrible spots where they're not the 101 and 102, in my extremely biased opinion.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. If anybody moved for the combine, for me, it was probably Kenneth Walker. I did not have him ranked as highly as I think I'm probably going to. Again, I'm trying to steer clear of putting labels on players, but right now he's a player that I hope ends up in a very good landing spot because I think I really want to like him.
See, every time I want to build my love, I just watch a replay of the Michigan game, because not only is beating Michigan just an absolutely magnificent time, but the thought of having Kenneth Walker on my team just doubles that.
There you go. Yeah, without a doubt. And one thing I wanted to throw in, Theo was talking about trading draft picks. To me, if you've got a low first, in non-superflex or a very low first, high second in superflex, this is actually a pretty good time to be trading away those picks right after the combine, because people are getting excited about more players. They're having visions of the draft class. This is going to be more than a round deep. This draft class is going to be 2 rounds deep, and they're all going to be really good players. And they're just not really thinking about the fact that some of these guys are going to end up in bad situations. Some of them are just going to be bad players. And so now is the time to flip those later firsts, because there's more excitement. When the actual landing spots are known, some of that thirst for the later firsts is going to dissipate, I think. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more with the later first, especially in Superflex. There's going to be some poor schmuck in your Superflex league that's going to spend the 112 or 111 on Sam Howell. And if you wouldn't give the 111 or 112 for Derek Carr, you damn sure shouldn't be spending it on Sam Howell. Just go offer the owner of, Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, one of those guys, and go get you a guy who's going to cost you a first-round pick that's going to give you QB1 upside for 2 to 3 years. And I am basically what I'll end on this is that I am no longer spending first-round Superflex draft capital on a guy with QB2 ceiling. I'm just not doing it. I'm not going to give you a first-round Superflex pick for a guy whose career best season is going to be like QB16. I'm not going to do it. So that's where I came out of this draft. That was very eye-opening. It wasn't just about this class. It's about Superflex in general. Even though the NFL overdrafts these guys, a term that I've heard is QB inflation. Just because they do it, I've never had trouble finding a QB2 in a Superflex, and I don't think you guys have either. There's this misnomer that you have to have 3 QBs. That's kind of true if you carry a Lamar or a Kyler or a Josh Allen, a guy who runs a bunch. But, man, if you've got, Dak and Aaron Rodgers, 2 guys that are mobile but don't run a bunch, I'll give up the third quarterback and not overdraft QB3 types.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think sometimes the ceiling, though, like you're saying, these guys have QB2 as a ceiling. The problem is that a lot of that ceiling is clouded and the hype starts building the closer you get to the draft. These NFL teams that are desperate for quarterbacks, they're just talking these guys up. And then fantasy land follows suit, right? And then you're, like you said, you need quarterback, especially if you need a 2, maybe a 3 as well. And you kind of thinking, this is one of my only opportunities to get this guy, in the first round of super flex. So I think that's the key is to differentiate, right? Like, is this guy really going to give you a low end QB1 or is he really a QB2 ceiling?
And Randy brought up a great point on the war zone. Randy, how many quarterbacks are you expecting to go in the first round of the actual NFL draft?
I said that if the number on like FanDuel or DraftKings, by the way, I'm not an NFL player, so I can legally do this, by the way, without losing my job. I said if the number's 2.5, I'm going to go with the under. I think you're only going to see Pickett and Pickett and Wilson go. Pickett.
Willis.
Willis. I'm sorry. You're going to see. I think you're going to see Willis in like the top 8, and I think you're going to see Pickett in like the last 8. And I don't think anyone else is going to do it. I could probably get backdoored on that, where a team trades up to 32 to take a guy so they have that 5th-year option. I couldn't be less grossed out by this QB class than I am. So I'm going to say 2, but I could see where 3 maybe.
Yeah, I would actually bet on 3 just because of that backdoor. I think somebody's bound to trade up and do it.
Yeah,
could be Detroit with that last pick in the first round is the one that's cashing tickets or one way or the other.
Well, I tweeted this out earlier, and I'm sure we'll get into the Carson Wentz trade. But with teams being so excited to recycle Carson Wentz, Drew Lock, Jimmy GQ, Jameis Winston, Mitch Trubisky, what does that tell you that the NFL thinks about these quarterbacks?
Mm-hmm.
That should tell you everything you need to know. If they're excited to give these guys a second, or in the case of Carson Wentz, a 3rd crack at it, they're like, that tells you these teams, like Washington has what, the 11th overall pick? They're like, no thanks.
It's actually a really good point, Randy.
It's yeah. We'll just risk it for one more year, or we'll wait and see what happens with Deshaun Watson and his legal case. But for me, I think they're as equally turned off by it as we are, and they're just willing to bridge year it. And we have a couple of great QBs that we know of today in CJ Stroud and Bryce Young coming out next year. And I think there's a lot of teams more than happy to just be in that sweepstakes this time next year.
Right. And we really haven't heard very much at this point about anybody, any NFL teams looking to trade up, moving up for quarterback type thing. And, think about every other year. By the time the combine is come and gone, you're already starting to hear teams, either talking about or actually trading up and getting in position to, go get a guy in the top 10. And that's just not happening this year.
Guys, keep them coming in the comments. Famous J must see my underdog ownership, because those are 2 of my most owned running backs, so they better not end up on the same roster.
Famous J, don't do it, Famous J.
Don't do it, buddy. Don't do it. I want to go to Joey Brown, because this is another guy I've been really liking a draft in these best balls, is Rashad White, and he had a nice combine. Where are you guys on Rashad White? I'll go to you first, Jerry. Joey Brown asking the question.
I mean, pretty big guy, ran faster than I thought he was gonna. I think it just depends where he ends up. But if he ends up, I could easily see him being one of those guys that just gets that tons of hype. Right, right after the draft, into the rookie draft. That's usually not my favorite time to pick a running back, because you end up with the Trey Sermons and the Royce Freemans and those guys that are not in that top tier, but they get all the hype right as rookie drafts are happening, and they slip into the 110, 111. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does get that good draft capital and he ends up in a favorable situation if he's not one of those guys that could easily be that guy.
And for me, Joey, it's if I'm in the late first in a 1 QB league, I'm going to take a gamble on him over the wide receiver position. Everybody always needs running backs, and I've been saying this on our show for a while. I just challenge you, Joey, go back and look at the last 5-6 draft classes. Find the wide receiver class that has disappointed you. With the NFL and the cap number for a wide receiver being $20 million, there's a huge incentive for guys to play wide receiver coming out of high school into college. So there's been this steady flow of wide receivers, but it seems like there's more upside. And I'll leave it at this for you. If Rashad White hits at the absolute apex that he can hit as a running back versus, say, a Sky Moore, who can hit at the absolute apex of his value, because those guys should go about the same place in rookie drafts, you're going to get a way bigger return on your investment with Rashad White than you ever would with Sky Moore. So I'm always going to err on the side of the running back, and that's just kind of how I play Dynasty.
Theo, Dan, anything to add on White before we move over to the receiver position?
No, I would agree with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, White for me is just one of those guys. I think he's a very big lottery ticket. He could end up being worth absolutely nothing, or he could end up hitting big, or anywhere in between. I think he's just got such a wide range of outcomes. And yeah, once you get into the late first, early second, that's where you want to bet on those guys with a wide range of outcomes. Try to catch that one guy, because if you got a couple 3 picks in that area, if you just hit on one of them, you've already paid for the other 2 picks.
And if you think about it, if he lands in, he's the wild card, right? If he lands in Miami or Atlanta or a place that we deem to be a very high value spot for a running back, especially with day 2 draft capital, he's going to get the rocket ship put on his backup rookie dynasty board. So he's got a huge range of outcomes given where he could go in the draft, his athleticism, and actual NFL draft capital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that if we're drafting right now, he'd probably be an end of the first round type guy. But like Randy said, I think he could shoot up. It seems like he's kind of moving up, and people are kind of cooling a little bit on Spiller. So it's kind of like we're kind of maybe seeing White settle in as the RB3 at this point, which was a little interesting. A year ago at this time, I was a lot more excited about Spiller. So, but with all these running backs, again, it's landing spot dependent as well. So we'd love to see White end up in a great spot, but if it's not a great spot, then he's probably somewhere in the second round.
Yeah, Joey just picked him up in the 14th. He's telling Dan and I are with him. I like how he asked this question. Hey, Dan, yes, in our draft to pick him up. So good for him. Guys, smash the like, smash the subscribe. All the goodness is coming. We haven't even touched, any of these, the movements that have been going on in the league. We're still talking rookies. Let's go Treylon Burks. We touched on, his combine, not the best, ran a 4.55 in the 40, 33-inch vertical, 24th out of 34 receivers. What's changed for you, Jerry, with Burks, if anything? Like, are you concerned about the receiver now that we're moving more towards the draft away from the combine?
I don't think a ton has changed. I was always sort of a Garrett Wilson guy as the first wide receiver. I don't know. Like it's not great. You would have loved to seen 4.4, especially when everybody else had a 4.4. Dude still looks like a freak. I mean, he's from Arkansas, and Jerry Jones loves himself some Arkansas boys. So if he gets first-round draft capital to the Cowboys, how can you not be excited about it? Granted, CeeDee Lamb's there, of course, but I don't think it changed a ton. If the NFL tells me it changed a ton, then I will put that into my knowledge belt, and I will do with it accordingly. But at this point, this is like what Dan said earlier. You don't want to overreact too much to the combine. We all say we don't want to. This is me practicing what I like to preach, and I'm just not going to go crazy over it. As much as when it happened, I said, he's shit and it's over and he's terrible. But you got to settle down, use some rationality. So to answer your question, not yet.
Randy?
It's not like anybody who likes or dislikes Treylon Burks is going to go, well, the combine changed my mind. Everyone's either going to use the combine to use it as leverage against him if they didn't like him coming into the combine, and anybody that did like him is going to use whatever historical comp to justify liking him. I mean, he was my wide receiver 2 coming into the combine. He is still my wide receiver 2 coming out of the combine. It's a data point. I think good friend of all of ours, Ray Garvin at Ray GQ on Twitter, he posted a very compelling stat. That if you look at the athletic measurables of Treylon Burks and Josh Gordon, they're almost identical. So there is plenty of historic comps that says he's going to be good. Nothing really much changed for me. I want to see where he lands. I want to see who his QB is. I want to see who his offensive coordinator is. I want to see what division he plays in. That means way more to me than the combine. It ranks much higher on my data set than his 40 time.
I think Rand. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think, the only way I really change my opinion on him is if the NFL changes my opinion on him. If he's like the, 7th, 8th, 9th wide receiver drafted, that's a little bit different than what I was expecting, and that's going to cause me to adjust. If he's still, somewhere in the, top 5 or 6 drafted wide receivers, it doesn't really change much of anything for me.
Does anyone, or sorry, Theo, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think these guys pretty much nailed it.
Well, I was just going to ask, and you can answer. Does anyone not have Wilson as their wide receiver 1 right now?
Garrett, I have. I'm sorry, you said Wilson is the one. Garrett Wilson is my one.
Okay.
This guy just Derek Zoolandered the hell out of that.
Yeah, I did. I don't have my hat on backwards, Jerry. Give me a break.
Don't take shots at the hat because you're a bozo.
That's true. Jerry, that's called deflecting.
let me just say that when he ran the gauntlet, though, I didn't like the little bunny hops while he was doing it. Pissed me off a little bit. But outside of that, the thing about Garrett Wilson, since we're going to talk about him, yes, he's my one too. He just gets open. I am a product of the Calvin Johnson era of wide receivers and Des Bryant and the big, tall guys that make jump ball catches and just look absolutely unbelievable. It's just not the state of the NFL anymore. You want guys that can get separation, who are open and can make plays that way. And unfortunately, I have to watch a lot of Ohio State games because I'm in Michigan and we're in the same region. And you just saw it every single game in and out, with tons of talent, with Olave and with JSN, also the other wide receiver that's going to come out in the future. He was still making plays. So he is my one. Solidly loved every second of it.
Yeah. For me, I have Burks and Wilson right there, but Wilson to me seems like a guy who it's a safer pick. I think that he's gonna, like, I don't see a scenario where Wilson is not a successful NFL wide receiver. He just seems to have it all. I think Burks, I still really like. I just think that Wilson's just rock solid. The guy's going to be a successful wide receiver in the NFL, and he's going to have great draft capital.
I'm going to change the last question, guys, as we finish off this rookie segment, and I'll go to Randy first. Who's your favorite rookie we haven't talked about yet?
Oh, man.
And if you need to think, I'll go. Sorry to throw it on you there, but
no, you're good. My favorite. Go ahead, Jerry. I'm gonna throw it to Jerry. Hand grenade.
I got a visual on that one.
Is that rude? Is there a position that you want me to go with, or you want me to just pick anybody?
Yeah, just a rookie that you like, that you're, that maybe you like more than others that you're hearing out there that we haven't talked about. Could be a tight end, could be running back.
I would not talk about tight ends. They are dead to me. But I think I'm going to go with Christian Watson, because he's not a guy from North Dakota State who I expected to love coming out of the combine. If there's one person that I am not listening to Dan about and being rational about the combine, it's Christian Watson, because he's giant, he's fast, he looked good. And if he gets draft capital, I'm going to have Christian Watson on a lot of my teams. And it's something that 2 weeks ago I did not expect I was going to have. So that would be my guy. Randall, Mr. Young.
We talked about him on our show on Sunday, and for me, it's Jamison Williams from Alabama. And I'll tell you why. The ACL, although not like a flawless recovery rate, it's not what it was 20 years ago. We've seen guys like Cooper Kupp who, tore his in November and came back and had like a top 5 wide receiver season thereafter and has been great since. So it's not a death sentence. But because he'll fall because of the ACL, he's likely to wind up in a team drafting in the back quarter of the draft. And guess which teams draft in the back quarter of the draft?
The good ones.
The really good ones that usually have good quarterbacks. And, imagine that dude falls to Kansas City or to the Chargers, although they just locked up a wide receiver. You kind of get my point, though. Let that guy go to Buffalo. I dare you. I just double dare you. And especially a place where he doesn't have to rush back on the field, man, I would be super stoked. So he's not only is he a guy I'm rooting for because he's good, but just the human interest story, and let him land in a good spot.
Dan, who's your guy? Do you have a guy that we haven't maybe mentioned yet?
I have a lot of guys that are kind of interesting to me. One of them, I guess, would be Zamir White. I think he's, he struggled with injuries all through college. and just never really got a chance to quite show what he could do. But he tested out real well. And if I am going to look at athletic testing, it's going to be at the running back position much more than the wide receiver position. He's kind of got that Goldilocks size, not too big, not too small. And he played for a big time program. He was I believe a 5-star recruit coming out of high school.
I think he was the top recruit coming out of high school, top running back at least.
Okay, there you go. And guys like that always intrigue me because it's just sometimes you just run across a series of injuries that just kind of they keep you down for a little bit, but they're not really the kind of injuries that make me think he's necessarily injury prone either. So I'm interested to see where he ends up, and he's a guy that I would like to be gambling on some in the wherever he is at in the draft, unless he goes insanely high. I think he's probably going to be a pretty strong second round rookie pick, and anywhere in the second round, I'd like to gamble on him.
I almost said Zamir White as well, so I love that pick.
All right, good.
Joey Brown threw my name on the table, so I'll go ahead, Theo.
So Jerry doesn't want to talk about tight ends, but I love Trey McBride. I'm really hoping for.
Theo loves young tight ends, man. You gotta know that, Jerry.
I think McBride. He didn't run the 40 at the combine, but he just looks the part. And the stats back it up. He was dominant, caught 90 passes last year. I think that he's the kind of guy that is going to be maybe a high second round pick in the real NFL draft when it's all said and done. I'm hoping he's going to give a very good landing spot because I'm a big fan of his. And I think at the end of the day, he's going to be in tight end premium leagues. I could see him falling into the late first. If not, he'll be an early second value. But I'm a big fan of his, and I'm getting excited about him.
I'm going to take a minute here to give attention to one of our big partners, the FFPC guys. We talk about it every show. Theo, Dan, and I, Andrew, we play on this site more than any site. Dynasty, best ball, big tournament. Right now they have 710 spots left in this bad boy. The never too early best ball, $25K for the first prize, 125 buy-in. Just a fun 20-round best ball. You don't even have to do defense and kickers for all you FFPC guys who maybe, prefer the slims. And then they've got the main event, guys, $1 million grand prize, 5.9 in prize money. I mean, guys, these are some serious wife-changing money on the table right here. You bring this home, not only will your wife love you for playing fantasy football, but you can actually trade her in for a better one because now you got all this cash in your bank. So, guys, check out myffpc.com. They got best ball, dynasty, redraft, orphans, you name it, they got it. Go check them out. And if you're not signed up on the site already, reach out to one of us, Dan, Theo, myself, at Goat District, even on Twitter, and we'll hook you up with a sign-up bonus for a nice little credit, little money in your face. Guys, a lot of ripples in the NFL waters. Lots. I mean, they knew Randy and Jerry were coming on tonight. They're like, Dan, JD, Theo, a little busy with work today. We got to give them some topics like nonstop, machine gun styles. You got Wentz going to Washington. You got Russ taking a hike to Denver. So let's start this off. Dan, I'm going to start off, with a little sad topic. You and I, a little aggressive, a little over aggressive, in one of our 500 leagues where we share. Bunch of savages in that league. Mm-hmm. We finished, what was that, second we finished last year, or fourth or third?
Third.
I know we cashed. Yeah, third.
Yeah. Yep.
So we went a little aggressive. We sent the 110 and Elijah Mitchell for Juju Smith-Schuster and the gambler himself, Calvin Ridley.
This was before the gambler was the gambler.
What hours, days, Dan? Was it like 48 hours, I think?
I believe it was about 48 hours before
something
the
like
news
that
broke. It was just before Ridley started tweeting again and saying, football is life. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
Dan sends me the tweet in the DMs, and he's like, fire the lit the lit emoji. We're like, oh yeah, Ridley's coming back. Meanwhile, he's like, oh shit.
Yeah. I got a little worried when he said, got to own your L's. And I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe he regrets sitting out all of last year. Maybe that's what that's about. No, turns out it's not.
So the reason I wanted to put this on here was not to, to do a pity party for us. It's give us your thoughts on the Ridley situation if you have it. I mean, everyone by now has an idea what's gone on with Calvin Ridley in Atlanta, or was in Atlanta. I don't know. That's to be seen. But the reason I put it on here, and this is a question I bring up every once in a while, is did Dan and I make a mistake in making a trade like this? I'll go to Randy first. Randy, very experienced trader himself. Situations like this, Ridley, you have uncertainty. There's value there, right? There's an opportunity to gain value if you go in while the uncertainty, while the cloudiness is in fantasy land. So when these situations arise, do you go in aggressive prior to the decisions or all the chips laying on the table or falling on the table, or do you kind of wait and sit back and not get caught with your hand in the cookie jar like Dan and I did?
Playing it safe's a guaranteed way to lose. Dynasty fantasy football, the stock market, the game of poker, they're all games of incomplete information. And as more of the information becomes readily available, the more value you lose. Dan took a shot. If you don't take a shot sometimes and lose, then you're not playing the game correctly. You gave up the 110 and Elijah Mitchell. I'm not a big Elijah Mitchell guy. I want to make sure I denote that for the record. In 5 years as the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, no running back has led that team in rushing 2 years in a row. It's a very fickle backfield. It's a very injury-prone backfield. I know it's hard to call a player injury-prone, but go look at the running backs and the injuries the last 5 years in San Francisco. You got Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Juju for Mitchell's not that far off, to be honest. I know people probably think I'm drunk, but I'm not. And so ultimately I see it as you lost 25% of Mitchell's value and the 110 for Calvin Ridley. Now let's say this doesn't happen and he comes back and he's a high-end QB2, low-end wide receiver 1. I said QB, I meant wide receiver 2. You know what I meant. And then you guys win this trade. But here's the thing. He's only 27. He's going to come back. He's going to play. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, he knows better. But, if you don't take big swings, there's a difference between taking a big swing on a calculated bit of information and just getting drunk and disorderly. And I think you guys took a good shot on good information. And this time it didn't work out. But how many times have you guys made these things? Dan, how many times have you made moves like this and it works out to your advantage and you do well? Probably 5 out of 6.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where I just looked at where was Ridley going last offseason, and he was legitimately being considered a top 5 dynasty wide receiver, and he had kind of a not great start to the year, and then he checks out for mental health reasons, which anybody can understand, and so. It just seemed to me like, if he's back, if he's ready to play football, he could easily, be nearly as valuable as like a Tyreek Hill or a Stephon Diggs or something like that, who you are never getting for the 110. So that was kind of the thought process there. And I managed to twist JD's arm on it a little bit, maybe.
No, I mean we were both higher on Ridley than others. I mean, even in best balls, yep. I was doubling him up. And Juju was a guy, as you guys all know. I love me some Juju, and his value was just too good before he does get situated. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like you said, you mentioned poker, Randy. One rule in poker is you don't base your future decisions on results, right? You base it on if the thought process was logical and made sense, and you hope for a better result more times than none. But I just thought it was an interesting situation to tie in with the Ridley. I mean, what else are we going to talk about? We didn't know where he was going to play. Hopefully he does come back, like you said, Randy, and he does bring us value. Theo, I'll go to you first, man. Russell Wilson, buddy, to Denver. I mean, pretty big pretty big upgrade at quarterback on a team that was probably just short of a quarterback, right? To be a legit contender.
Yeah,
JD,
absolutely.
before we get into that, let's give.
Oh
fans
yes, sorry, I threw it on
an
the
answer.
screen and then I got excited about Russ there. The answer is no, right?
Yeah, you got to keep him.
Got to keep him.
For those who can't or are not watching, by the way, you guys are killing the downloads in the podcast. Just gotta give that shout out there because the numbers are rocking it. But he's asking if he should drop Ridley in the dynasty. Guys, you can't drop these guys in the dynasty. Randy just said he's 27.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, I think you got to hold him too, because I don't really see I mean, if you can get good value, but I don't think that's going to happen
You're
now.
selling low.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You cannot sell somebody when the news is bad. It's the worst thing you can do in this game. So even if you have to sit on him for a year, he's like a $20 bill in your winter coat pocket. You know, you throw it away and Dan's in Minnesota and JD's in Canada. So I mean, I don't know if they ever put theirs away, but I got to put mine away like right about now. And then if November rolls around next year and I find that 20, I'm going to be excited about it. That's what Calvin Ridley has to be to you.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, you just have to get used to looking at his name on your roster all year. It's just going to be there. And you just have to get comfortable with the fact that it's going to be there, and it's going to remind you of a bad situation or whatever. But that's part of being a little bit mentally tough in Dynasty. Is just being able to say, better times are coming. I'm going to hold him.
Let me throw this at you real quick, Dan. I'd rather be holding Calvin Ridley right now than Odell Beckham Jr. And that's not a shot at Odell Beckham Jr., but Odell Beckham Jr. retore the ACL in his same knee. He's 29 years old, and Calvin Ridley doesn't have an injury. I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. has already come out and said it sounds like the best case scenario is he's going to be back in November. Back in November is what? The third wide receiver on the LA Rams, because Bobby Trees is coming back. Mm-hmm. So what's he coming back to? That when Calvin Ridley gets back, because this suspension freezes his contract with the Falcons, so he'll come back to one more year. Basically, his 5th-year option will be his 6th year, and he won't be coming off of a second torn ACL on the same knee. So if I could go out and move Odell Beckham Jr. for Calvin Ridley right now, 1-for-1 in a dynasty league, you bet your ass I'm going to do it.
Yeah, shoot, if I could move Odell Beckham for even a late second, I'd probably
a postage stamp.
Yeah,
ham sandwich.
Here's a better idea. If you got Beckham, just go out and spend a third, get yourself Robert Woods, and just play Woods until Beckham's ready to come back, if ever.
I still like my swap for Boyd. OBJ for Boyd. I'll take Boyd all day.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
All right, Theo, back to you, buddy. Russell Wilson in Denver. What are your thoughts, man? What's the ripple effect? Does everyone in that offense just move up, or is there someone specific that you really like with coming out of this trade or this move?
So I do think that the Broncos are gonna win a lot of games. I think that they're set to do that. We've had back-to-back seasons of a quarterback his first year on a new team winning Super Bowls. We had Tom Brady with the Bucs, we had Matt Stafford with the Rams, and now we have Russell Wilson with an opportunity to do some big things in Denver. I do think that there's a chance that they're more of a ball control offense than some think. I mean, people are kind of thinking this is going to be lighting up the scoreboard. I'm not so sure about that.
It's not going to be the Peyton Manning Broncos, is it?
No.
Is it, Theo?
No. I think that Javonte Williams takes provided that he's getting bell cow usage, and a lot's going to depend on what happens with Melvin Gordon next week. I think he could take a step up, and Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy certainly are in a better situation than they were in last week. Alberto is definitely a viable tight end. I think that right now he's probably a sell based on Twitter going absolutely insane for him, but he's going to be a solid tight end. I'm bullish on the Broncos as a team. I think that it was a great move for them to make. Quarterback's such a scarce position, and they went out and got a guy that we've seen play in multiple Super Bowls, and I think that they are certainly a contender in the AFC.
Let me give you guys a quick. Let's do an OTC real quick because Dan and I are in this draft, and I just saw Alberto go ahead of Tyler Higbee. Jerry, you prefer Tyler Higbee or Alberto?
I prefer Higbee. I saw someone tweet today that Alberto is their tight end 10 in Dynasty. So,
damn.
Like Theo said, I think a sell based on the narrative is probably the best bet at this point.
Yeah, it's good.
I still might take him over Higbee if we're talking about right now. I think that's a good OTC, JD. But I do agree. Like, if you can cash out on Albert O, I've seen people trading high second rounders to get Albert O. I think that's something that you should do. But I do think he's not bad. He's just not going to be tight end 10. What about you guys, Higbee or Albert O?
I'm going with the classic movie Brewster's Millions, None of the Above. I guess if I had to pick between those two, I would lean Higbee just because I think the regular season he gets off to a little bit of a faster start. We just talked about Bobby Trees and Odell Beckham Jr. both coming off of ACL injuries. So even if Woods starts the season, he'll be somewhat limited. I mean, you got Van Jefferson there, but I would lean Higbee because I just don't know what the distribution of targets is going to look like in Denver. Yeah. And there's no guarantee.
Let me interrupt you real quick, Randy.
What's new, Jerry?
Nothing. This is what I will say. If I have to rely on both of them and I cannot get rid of them, I do think Tyler Higbee is going to score more points than Alberto. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think I would rather have Alberto and I would trade him because I don't really think Tyler Higbee has a ton of trade value. Like he's
and his value is not gonna really go up anymore. Whereas Alberto can still has
like he's vanilla ice cream. Like you're happy you have him and you can plug him in, but he's never gonna give you any of that, no brownie chunks. Like you just don't have that. And I think Alberto is just full of syrup and sprinkles and all the goodness that you want, unless you're Randy because he works out too much. But
bringing out the brownie chunks. I like it.
I'm American. What can I say?
I like it.
Well, I'm glad that Jerry's talking about his inner fat kid. But yeah, this is the exact opposite of the Calvin Ridley situation. This is where if you don't have a good feeling about this guy, just move on. Mm-hmm. You may never get a better sell high window than you can. I'm asking myself, what can I package with Albert O, and what can I go get Mike Gesicki? Or Dallas Goedert, or Dalton Schultz. What can I add a second in a tight end premium and move up to a guy that I know is going to do something good? I think that's how I would attack this. It's not an anti-Albert O. It's just a bird in the hand type philosophy.
Yeah, I think it's very well said.
Famous Jay asking Gronk for Albert O Dynasty. Yeah, maybe they bring in Gronk. Who knows?
Yeah,
it's fair without context of a contender versus a rebuilder. If you're rebuilding, and there's no guarantee that Gronk wants to come back. I think if you're moving Gronk, and you can sell that narrative that Gronk is a Joe Burrow fan and he wants to go play with Joe Burrow, and you can get the guy who's under contract with Russell Wilson versus the maybe. Give me the again bird in the hands Albert O with Russell Wilson, and Gronk may just retire. I mean, why wouldn't Gronk want to retire? You wouldn't want to be part of an all-time NFL Hall of Fame class with your best buddy Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger and yourself. I just there's no guarantee Gronk even comes back. So why not?
I didn't even think it. I think that's a good point. I think he wants to retire with Brady.
Why not? I mean, why not get that guaranteed locked up Alberto?
No,
Gronk would have. I think Gronk. I think he's going to play next year because I think if he would have retired, he would have done it. He would have done it already. I think that he's going to see. I think somebody might pay Gronk. It's an interesting trade. Right now, I would take Albert O, but in a week, Gronk might end up in a decent situation. A lot of question marks there.
I'll take Alberto and move him for a third and Tanyan. How about that? All right, guys, one last question about this. The Seahawks. I mean, is there any hope for 2022? Is there anyone in this offense? I mean, obviously DK's there. He's the beast. Is he someone like how are you playing the Seahawks game right now? I guess is the question. I'll go to you first, Dan.
I mean, I think there's going to be some potential decent values there if somebody's really disappointed. You can probably get, I would guess, DK Metcalf is still going to be expensive. I don't see people really, giving up on him just because they know that, he's going to be a free agent after this year. And I think there's a decent chance that DK Metcalf could even get traded before this year. I mean, if Seattle is really going to try to rebuild and make it a really fast rebuild, their best move probably is to trade DK Metcalf because they can get a first plus for him right now. And, the value that he's going to add this year on the team isn't going to really help. And then they're going to have to pay him $20 million or something like that next year. So I think they might be tempted if somebody gives them a good offer to just move him. Tyler Lockett, I think he's probably going to still cost you, like mid-second, something like that. Theo, you were trying to get him for a low second and just couldn't get anybody to move, could you?
I offered like 212, 211 for Lockett in a couple places, and nobody was biting on it. I didn't even get a counter back. I think people are just they're still angry about the Russell Wilson situation and not ready to move on.
They're still going through the grief process. Give them a couple days, Theo. Just let them get through that grief process. And then, as a few people have pointed out on Twitter already, Noah Fant goes from Drew Lockett quarterback to Drew Lockett quarterback. So I don't really see a whole lot of difference in Fant either way. I don't think his value has helped or hurt a whole lot, other than obviously we would have loved to have seen him with Russell Wilson. That would have helped his value, but I don't think he's that much worse off as a Seahawk.
I mean, if you're going to move, this is real NFL. If you're going to move DK, do you think you can get 2 firsts for him?
I think there's a good chance.
We just saw Russ go for 2 firsts. I mean, hell, Seattle gave 2 firsts, a second, and a third, or something like that for Jamal Adams, and God knows what they would take. They basically got 2 seconds and 3 players for Russell Wilson. So they got what? 3 players plus Jamal Adams and 2 seconds for Russell Wilson. I don't think that was a good trade for them. But if you were the Seahawks, like me personally, I would want like at least a high second this year and a first next year. I don't want the first this year. I don't know who my quarterback is this year. I want the first next year when there's good quarterbacks in the class. So I could take 2 2023 first and stack those and move up and maybe get my QB of the future next year. Or maybe I trade that to get Deshaun Watson. And I want the first next year because I want to know who my quarterback is so I can build around that person.
Is there a team you're thinking about, Randy, for DK that can actually maybe do that or make a move for him?
For me, after seeing what they got to get Russell Wilson, if this whole Deshaun Watson thing goes away, could you offer DK Metcalf those 2 firsts and maybe, obviously some other things to get Deshaun Watson? I mean, Houston's going to want a number 1 wide receiver for Davis Mills, and they'd be getting a bunch of draft capital so that they could potentially get a QB of the future. I mean, and if you really wanted to do DK dirty because he's been kind of whiny or whatever, why not send him to Houston?
You're so mean, Randy.
It's like
everything is bigger in Texas, right?
Well, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. If you're a guy like DK Metcalf and you're going to sign a $20 million a year contract, there's a lot worse states you can sign with than Texas, a state that has no state income tax. I mean, in Indiana, I think it's like 4%. You sign $20 million. What is that? Like $800,000 a year that you get to keep in your pocket because it's in Texas. There's worse spots. So, just thinking out loud.
Damn,
yeah, Raiders would be another spot.
Raiders would be a great spot.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a good one.
I mean, any team with a really you want him on a QB with like a rookie type deal. Why not New England?
Yeah,
that would be a great spot too.
Yep, New England.
Miami.
Great.
Miami.
Yep.
I just want DK Metcalf to get away from Pete Carroll. To be honest, I mean
even Chicago.
Chicago would be great. Chicago would be a great one. But I mean, we're talking about DK's had, I think it's 129 targets for 2 straight seasons. Maybe we get him to a team where they're viewing him as a 150 target guy. And at that point, you know, I don't care who the quarterback is if he can get up into that 150, 155 range and just get the ball in DK's hands and treat him like a true alpha wide receiver. So I would love to see him change teams. And I think the argument too, if Seattle really does clean house and DK stays there this year, you know, we could get some better game scripts and Pete Carroll can't go as run crazy. So I think right now the Seattle guys are you got to kind of suck it up and see if somebody's trying to get out of the situation, because I certainly believe in DK's talent. I think Fant is interesting because we've been talking about Alberto. There's not a tight end to give him any competition in Seattle. He's still a younger player. I'm not saying to go overpay, but I think some people might want to get out of that situation. And then Tyler Lockett, you know, he's a little older, but it's going to be very difficult for them to move Tyler Lockett with that contract. So if DK leaves, Lockett could see a target bump as well. So there's a lot of scenarios where acquiring Seattle guys could actually pay off despite losing Russ Wilson.
Narrow target tree there with Lockett and Fant, possibly.
There you go.
In Seattle. Guys, you see it on the screen. Underdog, our new partners. Just another fun platform, guys, to play fantasy, play best ball, especially on your phone. The mobile app kicks serious ass. And right now they have a really fun tournament, $300K in prize money. It's the Big Board Superflex. So they basically took away one of the receivers and added a quarterback in there, which makes the whole draft completely different than any other drafts that we've done on Underdog. So, guys, go check it out. They've got other sports on there, baseball, hockey. Use the code DISTRICT when you sign up, and they'll match up to $100 on your initial deposit, throwing some more dollars in your face. Guys, NFL free agency, just more fun, more goodness for us to talk about. Randy, I mean, we're both Colts fans. We got to be happy, right, to see Wentz leave Indy. He's gone to the Commanders. Give us your thoughts on the move. And I mean, kind of nice that they take over all the money, right, that we kind of owed Wentz.
I looked today about an hour after the trade went down, and the Colts have the #1 amount of salary cap space in the NFL at $69 million to do things with. I mean, I want him to go out and get Mitch Trubisky. I'll be honest. I think Mitch Trubisky's a low-key Konami code quarterback. For whatever you think of Matt Nagy and blah, 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 blah. I mean, they got to the playoffs twice, and they were a double doink away from being a playoff winner. And I would love to see Jonathan Taylor with a QB who would help open up some running lanes for him. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he's not Matt Ryan either. I think he was underutilized from a rushing perspective when he was in Chicago. If you look at his rookie year, it's weird. You know, most mobile quarterbacks, you see an ascending rushing platform, right? Whereas Mitch Trubisky had a descending. He rushed a bunch as a rookie, then it got less and less and less. And I think that was some of Nagy's downfall. It was like, no, you're a pocket QB. That's my system. That's what you do. And I think a creative play caller could get a lot out of Mitch. And it's low risk, low reward. You give him like a 2-year deal with all the money guaranteed in year 1. So there's not a huge cap hit in year 2 if you have to move off of it. And if things go the absolute worst case scenario, you're like in the top 8 and maybe you can get your quarterback next year. I don't know. It's going to be a trip, man. What did you think? You're a Colts fan.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you if you heard about this Derek Carr action. It seems like that's someone that they're trying to go after. I'd way prefer that. I like Trubisky.
I love it.
I like Trubisky as like I figure you'd like Carr. He's it's hard to not cheer for Derek Carr. You know what I mean? Like that guy puts a lot of passion into the game. And I think he's one of those guys that if you put into the right situation, I think he can even shine.
Well, could you imagine, like, you go to bed on Monday, you're like, Jesus H Christ, I got Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in my division. And then by the time you have dinner on Tuesday, it's like, well, we'll just add Russell Wilson to the mix. I mean,
yeah,
I would run. I mean, think about if you go to the AFC South. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is here. Maybe he, progresses under Doug Peterson. Maybe he doesn't. Ryan Tannehill took a huge, ginormous step back under Todd Downing versus being there with Arthur Smith. And then I like Davis Mills as a sneaky QB3 in Dynasty, but that's a division that's very winnable. So, yeah, I wouldn't hate it for Carr, and I wouldn't hate it for Indy. I don't know. It depends on what you'd have to pay him and pay him in compensation.
Yeah. And what do you think for F1?
Oh, Terry McLaren?
Yeah.
I like Scott Turner. Scott Turner has gotten a lot of miles out of turd quarterbacks for a long time going back to Carolina. He got something out of a guy named Kyle Allen. He got a little bit out of Taylor Heineke. I could argue this is the best, and that's saying a lot. This is the best quarterback that Scott Turner has had to work with since he's been an offensive play caller. He had broken Cam Newton and Kyle Allen in Carolina. He went to Washington with Ron Rivera, and he's had like the one-legged wonder, God bless him, Alex Smith, Tyler Heineke and a broken Ryan Fitzmagic. I think this could be a really interesting offense. I mean, I can make a real case scenario where Carson Wentz is the second best quarterback in that division behind only Dak. And you're going to give him Terry McLaren. And I've seen mock drafts where they're going to draft like a Drake London. And you got a wild card in Diami Brown. You'll get Logan Thomas back. I think we all like Antonio Gibson. They could
Curtis
Samuel. They could bring back there's been word they want to bring back J.D. McKissick. It's not a bad offensive line. And in a division that's fairly winnable. I mean, if I'm Carson Wentz, you could have landed in a lot worse spots. So for the Commanders, it just tells you that there's a sucker born every minute. For Indy to get a third, which they gave a third and a first. Well, they gave a third and a second that could become a first, and they got back a third and a second, a third that could become a second. This could end up costing them one round of draft capital by the time it's all said and done. And the Commanders, God bless them, tells you how much money Dan Snyder has. Happy to take the full $28 million off their hands. It was a wild trade.
Commies, gotta love the commies.
What a dumb name! I'm sorry, I haven't been on.
Horrible name.
JD is the resident soccer fan, at least the biggest soccer fan in the room. What was wrong with football club?
I loved it. I actually really liked it, and I feel like a lot of people liked it. It was kind of professional, like
I thought it was great.
Club. Now it's kind of like, I can't. I don't know. Maybe over time.
I mean, I get the ode to the military being in Washington D.C. and you have some neat font for like the writing and stuff for jerseys, with the military-esque type font for the. But man, they just blew it. They blew it. You had it.
Terrible.
Jerry, what are your thoughts on Wentz, and who do you think is the starting quarterback in Indy in 2022?
Oh God, isn't that a good question? As far as Wentz is there, I like it for Terry McLaren, and I like the Turner's there. I think it's going to be okay. I think it was not a good organizational move, but I'm also a fan of a team that is one of the doldrums of organizations in the NFL, and the Detroit Lions. So it's sort of what I know best. As far as Indy, I don't know. I don't love Mitchell Trubisky. I know people. He's Randy just talked about him, and I don't know. I just he's really good at beating the Lions. I will say that he does an exquisite job at that. I think they're going to try. It's weird because I don't think with Jonathan Taylor they can try and lose, and I don't think they can get a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. They're in a weird spot where they have a good team, and you have the opportunity to tank without a quarterback, but the rest of your team is too good to do that. Like my team, Jared Goff is bad, and we're bad, so we're in prime position to just continue being bad. There's a slew of guys. We talked before we recorded. A Jameis Winston or a Marcus Mariota or the Trubisky types. Is there a chance they swing for the fences and try and go for someone like Deshaun Watson? Let me ask that question.
I don't see Ballard.
Not in division.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to face that guy twice a year?
No.
And the Colts don't have a first.
Oh yeah, so they're
Yeah.
shit out of luck on that.
Yeah.
So what is going forward for the Colts? You guys are Colts fans.
I mean,
That doesn't seem like a great future.
I mean, I don't want Jameis Winston.
I was just going to say, I'm kind of rooting for Winston to go there.
I've had the white version of Jameis Winston for the last year. I mean, if someone told you that Carson Wentz and Jameis Winston and Carson Wentz were separated at birth, you'd have to believe them. It's like that. I don't know, like that scene from Remember the Titans. I don't know what you're talking about. That's my brother. I mean, that's Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz probably has more traditional workout videos, but I can.
Oh, dude, I live Jameis Winston's off-season workout videos make the off-season worth living. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, it's going to be some combination of Jimmy Garoppolo, Jameis Winston, or Mitch Trubisky. The other guys are already on team.
But like, what kind of future is that?
Honestly. Well, it's not a bright one, that's for sure.
It's not. And what sucks is that you're burning up the prime of guys like Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner, Jonathan Taylor, and it stinks. But this is what happens when this is a great metaphor for Dynasty, and that's why these people are really here. This is why you don't leave yourself in the middle. You become the Indianapolis Colts. You have just enough talent where every single year you finish in that dead zone of 105 through 109. Mm-hmm. You're not really bad enough that you're not going to make the playoffs, but you're not really good enough that even if you get in, you're going to make any noise. And you're just in this perpetual spin cycle of, you know what, there's like no way out. Sometimes you just either got to go all in. Because Jerry and I had this conversation the other day. Think about all the teams that have all this precious draft capital, right? You got the Lions with all their firsts, and the Colts with their first, and the Jags had all their first last year. And I didn't mean the Colts, I meant the Giants. But then you have all these teams with their salary cap space, like the Colts and like the Jags, and you never do anything with it. It's just this goofy asset hanging around your neck. It's like, it's really neat, but if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't really matter. Then you have teams like Green Bay who don't even have an owner, who are out here mortgaging their future, putting the future on a credit card. We're going to kick this Aaron Rodgers can, this Devontae Adams can down the road, but they're like, screw it. Tom Brady's out of the NFC. Let's go win. And that's kind of how you look at your dynasty roster. Either be all in or all out. Don't be like the Colts, as much as it hurts to say. You're just going to be in the middle forever.
Yeah, it's a bad place to be in fantasy and in the NFL. Theo, Dan, anything to add, whether it's in Washington or Indy, before we move on here?
No, I agree with those guys on McLaurin. I think McLaurin is it's going to be the most consistent QB play he's had potentially as well.
All right, I like the positive spin. So Andrew Luck is not going to be the starting quarterback that's what I'm hearing.
You know what? There are worse people you could carry on the back end of your 32-man dynasty. I mean,
him and Henry Ruggs are the
no.
No.
Andrew Luck is not carrying a potential 20-year sentence around his neck. I mean,
did you see him at the national championship? It looked like that was wild,
but that's just part of the NFL. I forget the guy's name. He was the heavily tattooed guy who played center for the LA Chargers for a long time. Nick something or another. And then what he looked like, all the NFL playing weight that he lost. That's what Andrew Luck did. Andrew Luck was huge. He was like 6'4", weighed 245.
Yeah. Matt Burke for the Vikings. That guy's chiseled now.
Why carry all that extra weight? But I would love to see Andrew Luck come back. Obviously, it's not going to happen, but I don't know. I mean, there are literally people as we speak that are carrying like backups, like Blake Bortles. You can't pick up Andrew Luck. I mean, what's if Blake Bortles has a career resurrection? What's he worth versus if Andrew Luck gets picked up even for 5 minutes?
I hate you so much.
I don't know. Was it because I said Blake Bortles?
Promoting Andrew Luck. That dude is.
He'll just go to McMahon. He'll just go to Ed McMahon for some weight gain tips. Aren't their dads? Isn't his dad friends with him or something? XFL.
I don't know. I'd like him to go get some weightlifting tips from The Rock.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Jerry, free agency wise, who are you most interested in looking like landing spot wise?
Mine is actually a little bit of a weird one, little curveball. It's Melvin Gordon. Not because I give a crap about where Melvin Gordon is going to go, but if Melvin Gordon lands in Denver, that's just going to rip my heart out and just step on it. So I know it's a weird answer. It's not exactly what you were going for.
No, we love it. Dan and I are all about Melvin Gordon. He's the best. He's the best RB3, RB4 you can get in best ball right now, in my opinion.
Right.
I mean,
exactly. Wherever he goes, he's carving out a role.
I'd love Melvin Gordon to go to Atlanta.
Yeah.
You figure this is your
Yeah, that would actually be really good.
You just roll. Here's the thing: if you're Atlanta, you draft Malik Willis with your 8th overall pick, and you just tell the fans he's not playing this year. He's Trey Lance. He's going to learn this year. And then you go all in with the rest of your draft capital on defensive players, and you use all your draft capital next year to build a new offense around Malik Willis, because the offense you'd have for Malik Willis is going to be different then. But Matt Ryan's the best QB in that division by a million. So why not go get Melvin Gordon, get a couple of veteran wide receivers and go win the NFC South, and then see if you can make some noise in the playoffs. What the hell? Go out on top.
So you're saying that the NFC South is the anti-AFC West quarterback-wise?
Holy shit, Dan! As we sit here today, we're talking Kyle Trask, Taysom Hill, Matt Ryan, and Sam Darnold.
Wow.
That's not a gap. That's not a gap. That's the Grand Canyon. You got those 3 jokers on one side. Matt Ryan's over there, can't throw a football halfway across it. But doesn't matter. You don't need any wide receivers. It's him, Kyle Pitts, and Melvin Gordon. Get some.
There you go.
Theo, who's got your interest these days? Free agency. Who are you interested to see where they land right now?
It's Juju. For me, it's Juju. I want to see him land in a good spot. I think it'll be interesting.
What is a good spot for you?
I would like to see him land in a place where he's going to be predominantly the slot, and I want to see him across from another strong wide receiver. I think that's his ideal. Let him just sit in the slot, do what he does. I'd like to see him, in a place like Tennessee, Kansas City, a place where he's going to have other good players around him on a winning team, and I think we could see his value go back up in Dynasty.
Dan, you got anyone to add to that list?
Yeah, I'm interested to know where James Conner and Leonard Fournette end up. 2 running backs. I think they still have tread on the tires. And they did real well with a full-time workload. For parts of the season last year. I don't think either one of them is going to end up with a full-time workload coming up this year. But I do think each of them could end up being the lead back in a committee and force something from there. So I'd like them to end up in good landing spots.
I mean, with the way they have a nose for the end zone, both of those guys,
Mm-hmm.
they don't need to be, a workhorse. They just need to get some opportunity. So I like that one.
Right. And some place that we'll throw to the running backs too, because they can definitely take advantage of that as well.
So not Kansas City then?
Yes.
Randy. Oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say Kansas City is definitely it's that place that everybody seems to think would be great for running backs, and it just isn't.
And if Juju goes to KC, Fantasyland's going to melt.
Oh yeah,
play right now, right, Randy?
I think Juju the guy is worth. The name is worth more than the production. I think that ship has sailed. But he's fine. If you already got him, smoke him if you got him.
Evil bastard,
Hey,
this
why?
guy that you invited onto this show.
You hate honesty? You hate honesty? The guy that I'm most interested in is Evan Ingram. All the other really good tight ends got, franchise tagged, even David Njoku. And there's other guys out there, whether it's OJ Howard or Robert Tonyan or even Gronk or even Zach Ertz. But Evan Ingram, man, 27 years old. He'll be almost 28 when the season starts. And, a guy who had a good run with Eli Manning. You know, what if he reunites with a quarterback who actually uses the tight end? I don't know. I'm just interested.
What if he has an offensive coordinator that doesn't put him on, like
blocking
5-yard routes?
Yeah,
Just don't have him block at all.
Yeah. He can't block, and every route has to go 5 yards at least past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, like before the Colts traded Wentz, I would have loved to have seen him in Indy. No offense to baby hands Jack Doyle, but I'm bye. You know, I would love to have this guy in here on like a 2-year deal. You know, that's team friendly mostly in year one when you have all this cap space. So if you got to cut him, you know, but if I'll just tell you right now, if Evan Ingram winds up in LA with the Chargers or Cincinnati with the Bengals because CJ Uzoma is also a free agent, he will melt faces. I mean, his value in tight end premium will absolutely melt faces. Another guy, like if you really wanted someone absolutely free at the tight end positions, OJ Howard.
Mm-hmm.
What could have been? He was in Bruce Arians' doghouse the minute he walked on the team. It felt like they couldn't wait to give Cameron Brate more money, and then the minute Tom Brady got there, here comes Gronk. Still super young. I think he's 27, and just the story almost writes itself. So for me, those are a couple of guys I'm looking at.
Shout out to Wheeler joining us in the chat. Wants to see A-Rob to KC. I'll throw another few names on the table. Gesicki and Ertz are interesting for me at tight end, and receivers.
Gesicki got tagged.
Gesicki's tagged.
It was one of those late tags yesterday. Yeah, it was a super bummer.
Yeah,
as a big Gesicki fan. Yeah, that's a super bummer.
All right, and then I was gonna say Christian Kirk, and I had another receiver that I was looking at. Mike Williams in LA. I have a feeling he ends up back in LA, but it'd be interesting to see if he ends up somewhere else.
He did 4 years.
82?
Yeah.
See, that's been working the last 48 hours. Sorry, guys. I'm a little out of touch with a bit of the headlines. All right, guys. Let's talk kind of strategy here real quick as we near the end of our, what are we at right now? We're at 80. Yeah, we're about 80. Strategy wise, I'll go to you first, Randy. You're a trying to think of the word that I'm like
idiot.
A clever.
Idiot.
No. I'm going the other way. You're a clever fantasy player, like with strategy and trades. Is there anyone that you're buying or selling prior to free agency, like before a lot of these guys end up in their landing spots?
I mean, it was Gesicki, and I mean, it was Davis Mills, and it's still Davis Mills. I'll tell you another guy. I mean, his value could not be further on the floor. Go out and like try to give like a third and a super flex for Jordan Love. They have to get that dude off the team. And I know this will be an unpopular opinion, and someone will come over here and tell me how Sam Howell's cool, and I'm not going to believe you. He's Baker Mayfield's evil. Like, he's Wario. If Baker Mayfield's Mario, Sam Howell's Wario. But anyway, give me Davis Mills. And if I can get Jordan Love, I mean, Jordan Love's better than every QB in this class not named Malik Willis. That's my take. So if you want to go super desperate, if you want to go Hail Mary, if you want to take 1 year wonder, how high is high and how low is low, Jordan Love, that's your man. Go get him, Pittsburgh. Go get him, New Orleans, and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, for a third, what are you going to find in the third anyway? Nothing.
Jerry?
So before this Deshaun Watson maybe going to Pittsburgh Steelers rumor, I would have said him, because like you guys did with Calvin Ridley, I am a person that always goes for the unknown. If you're not willing to die, you're never going to be able to thrive. So I'm a gambler at heart. I can't help it. I will check raise with a flush draw and just hope that SOB hits by the river. So that would have been my bet leading into the show. You know, I mean, we'll see, because he's still an extreme unknown. Like we're not going to know what's going to happen. I've been hearing, I cannot remember his name. He's a lawyer that's on Twitter, but he said that we should find out some big news by Friday. So
yeah, that's Drew Davenport.
Thank you. That's why you keep Dan around.
Dan, that's why Dan's wearing a dress shirt. He just came from the Warriors. So
yeah, he was actually there.
He's our go-to lawyer reference.
By the way, for those listening at home, write this down. Jerry will check Rays with a 9-outer, 18% chance to win.
I love it. Randy's on point with the math. Dead on with the 18% with the 1-outer, with the 2-outer on the end. Yeah, I love it. Theo, who's someone that maybe you're like wheeling and dealing, like you're making me dizzy with the DMs and all the moves you're making in an hour, let alone a day. So who's someone that you're buying or selling these days?
So I'm trying to feel out Michael Carter owners. I think that there's a little bit of a fear that he gets James Robinson this draft, and the Jets have so many picks that they might draft somebody that could be a real threat to him. But I think if he survives the draft, I think his value is going to shoot way up, and that's a gamble I'd be willing to take. And I think that even if there's maybe they draft a grinder that kind of cuts into his role slightly, he'll still have his pass catching ability will still be there. So I'm a big Michael Carter fan. I think the Jets believe in him. I think he's going to be a running back 2 this year, and I think some people might be a little bit scared of the situation based on just only the simple fact that he was a 4th-round pick last year. But he sure looked good at times, and I think that this coaching staff believes in him. So I'm feeling out the Michael Carter owners right now.
Hey Theo, what have you been offering? Like a pick range, sort of.
I think that Michael Carter is the kind of guy that you offer like the 111 for.
The 201 mid to late.
Yeah, I think that you offer something that's valuable, but not something that would burn you. I think that if I traded the 111 for him and I end up getting burned, it would not be the end of the world. If I gave up like the 108, you guys brought up a guy like Jamison Williams might fall to that range. You wouldn't want to lose out on that. But I think that Michael Carter, like if we put him in this draft class right now, based on him being on the Jets, we would draft him, pretty highly, I think, at this point. So I think that 110, 111, 112, 201, something like that would be good for him.
Yeah, I traded for Michael Carter. I traded for Carter. I sent in a tight end premium. I sent Fant, and I got back Carter and a 303, I believe. This was pre-trade, but I would do that 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, I like that one.
Nothing changed with Fant, so actually, trade or not.
I mean, he still got Drew Lock.
That's what I mean. Like, I mean, nothing changed with Noah Fant.
When a receiving core gets a new pass, thrower, there's always that concern of where's the chemistry. Well, if you're Drew Lock, there's at least one guy you can count on. And for DK, at least, Drew Lock will chuck the ball. I'm not saying it's catchable, but it's going up.
And tight end's kind of that safety valve too, right? For the new guy throwing the rock. Dan, who's someone you've got your eye on or that you've been trying to sell?
I'm definitely trying to buy Juju. I still believe that if he ends up in the right situation, he could look really good. Other than that, I tend to be at this time of year somebody who's kind of nibbling around the edges. And when I say that, I mean diving in the dumpster. So I don't have a problem, going after guys like Melvin Gordon, Chase Edmonds, which is not really Chase isn't quite as much of a dumpster dive, but like Melvin Gordon, everybody knows he's old. So, you can get him for a little bit cheaper, and I think he's got a good chance to carve out a solid role. DJ Chark, Robert Woods, players like that. Braxton Barrios, another one. It sounds like there's quite a few teams that are kind of low key high on Barrios and want to add him. So that interests me as well.
Oh, when you're on Instagram like he is, man, it's.
See, I'm not on Instagram, so
I'm not either. Trust me, I've completely shut that down. But agreed, man. It's I think Barrios could end up in a nice spot, and we're starting to hear the talks heat up around him. I joke because he was on, who was it that he was with? Oh, McCaffrey. They were like double dating in bathing suits and stuff somewhere in the South. And Randy's gonna go check out the Instagram. Randy loves the Instagram.
I'm searching right now.
Nice.
There we go.
I love it. Deshaun Watson, I know we touched on it. Does anyone think he doesn't play in 2022?
I think we'll know for sure on Friday.
Beautiful.
If he fades all the felonies on Friday, then he's good to go. It's wheels up. You know, Dan and I have had this conversation in the DMs and in the GOAT League chat forever. I just think it's a very slippery slope to start suspending people for civil allegations, because then it becomes blackmail, in my opinion. Oh, hey, did you see what happened to Deshaun Watson? If you don't pay me $100,000, I'm going to tell the world you did this. So I think with the NFL, they didn't suspend him last year. I think it's all criminal or bust. And if he gets no criminal charges, I think teams will pay the price, and I think we'll see him next year.
Yeah. There is one possibility that they could not indict for felonies, but could end up pressing misdemeanors, in which case he'd probably, he could probably get those settled out pretty quick without any jail time or anything like that. But there probably would be a suspension involved if he has a misdemeanor.
That I would agree. I think you're going to get the 6. You're going to get the Big Ben 6, not a sixer. That's the other Big Ben. The six games.
I'm getting to my air horn sound way too late, so we're gonna have to skip it tonight, boys. Guys, this was awesome. We're at 90 now, so we try to keep it under 90, and as usual, we end up around 90. We appreciate your time, Randy, Jerry, for sure. Lucky we had a lot of goodness to talk about tonight. Remind the people. And you guys can fight over who's going to do it and who wants to go first. I don't want to get into
No. Well, let the CEO talk. Let the CEO take it away.
It's just Dynasty Warzone everywhere. We would really appreciate subscribing. iTunes, Spotify. Those are the big 2. Some people still use Stitcher, Podbean, Google Pods, iHeartRadio, whatever. I mean, just search Dynasty Warzone.
Players, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we are on 8-track if you're driving around in a 78 Vega.
And he's a purist.
There's nothing wrong with a 78 Vega, Jerry.
They come on right after Aldo Nova.
But at these gas prices, you might want to park that Vega. But the big thing is the YouTube channel. We're not as slick with the graphics, but I think the content's good. And one of the favorite things we did this year in season, we did Football Sunday School. We did about a 90-minute live stream from 11:30 Eastern to 1 p.m. kickoff, and help people with starts and sits. And we have a lot of good rookie stuff coming up. And the last thing I have is the Patreon. I'm hoping to get some of you guys on there. I'm recording the first episode tomorrow night for our patrons. It's called Real Conversation with fake footballers, and I'm going to have Rich Dotson from the Dynasty Nerds on with me. And that'll be a patron exclusive for a couple of weeks. Eventually, I'll drop it for regular consumption, but that'll go immediately unedited out to our patrons over at patreon.com/Dynasty Warzone. And it's not like you can't go to the Dynasty Nerds and figure out what Rich and the gang's into. This is more about like how they grew the business, stuff like that. So those are all the wacky things we're into, as well as backwards trucker hats. Jerry, tell us about backwards trucker hats.
Well, this is from Viridian Global, sponsor of both of our podcasts. See, I actually can't do any good segues on my own show, but I can do it on this show.
I was going to say, that's pretty professional, man, right there.
That's great.
Let me just say thanks for letting me come on this show again. I get smarter every time I do it. I get smarter in the chat with you guys. It's a hell of a time. It's, I get to do this kind of thing where we just talk football with Randy every week, and it's awesome. And it gets me into situations like this where I get to talk to you guys. Love it. Appreciate it. I have drafts with all of you. We're all in at least one league all together. Mm-hmm. I took notes. Randy always says, if you're in a league with a content creator, make sure you consume their content so you can get better. So got that for you guys. And I'm going to look and make sure and see if I have any Michael Carters or DJ Charks or Braxton Barrios in leagues, and I'm going to come calling.
It's a poker trick, man. You take notes of those guys.
Let me know.
I like it. Guys, check out Jerry. Check out Randy. Check out the Dynasty Warzone. It's a no-brainer, guys. All the goodness they talked about. And, guys, podcast or YouTube, sign up to both. Share the goodness for both. When you guys find these shows, follow on both, man. It just helps us out. Little things like smashing the like, smashing the subscribe, and checking out Randy and Jerry over there at Dynasty Warzone. Theo, I'm gonna come to you last, man. So get the schedule ready, because I never know what it is. So I gotta go to you, and you got all the goodness. So Dan, another awesome show tonight. I know you're with me in the DMs with Randy and Jerry. You know how valuable their goodness is.
Tonight, two of my very favorite people to have on, without a doubt. And I feel privileged to have taken over in some way, shape, or form from Randy on this podcast. It was big shoes to fill for sure. And just always appreciate talking to both of these guys anytime I get the chance, whether it's in a league chat or on here or wherever. It's always worth my while.
Theo, we go to you, brother. And then, by the way, there's like, I had to go through a lot of resumes, man. I'm just saying. Yeah. Theo, who do we have coming up, brother? I know we've got some more VIPs lined up, some serious guests coming up, some awesome shows. Let the people know what's coming up on the GOAT District.
So yeah, we've had so far this month, we had JJ Zachariason, Billy Wazowski, and now the Warzone fellas. We've been putting out great ones, and we're going to come back to you with more best ballin' episodes as well. And we have, the rest of March, you'll like the guest list. Not a couple of dates still in flux, but some good guests on the way, getting ready for the NFL draft. Going to talk some NFL free agency really shortly. And it's March Madness in the GOAT District.
For sure, man. March is going to be crazy. Tonight was just a taste. We're just getting a taste of all the movement in the NFL. And you want to make sure you're not overreacting, underreacting, or missing the boat. And we're going to make sure you do or don't all of those here on the channel. Smash the like, guys. Remember, Underdog, use the code DISTRICT. If you're signing up, they'll match up to $100 deposit. FFPC, myffpc.com. We'll get you a sign-up bonus if you're not already on the site. They got some monster tournaments right now on both of the platforms. And like Jerry said, Viridian Global, I got the JT shirt going. They got tons of goodness, fantasy football, Dynasty Warzone, GOAT District gear. Go check it out. It's all there. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next time, and we'll check you all later.
GOAT District, the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text. That trash offers the best. You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice, from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man, y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be trading. And I always be trading. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.